Hey guys, Ultimate here, and I think today would be a great time to talk about exhaust system. Since I'm going to be putting a catback exhaust on my G today, I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about what a muffler does, resonator, a mid pipe, and other things. So let's just jump right into it, okay? And I'm going to be installing a Megan Racing catback exhaust system, you guys. I'm super excited. So if you see all your components here, this is all the piping that goes after the catalytic converter. This is also called a catback exhaust. Catback exhaust systems are popular because they don't do anything that triggers any check engine lights with your vehicle. There's no sensors past the catalytic converter, so you can kind of do whatever you want with these parts here. And as you can see here, I have my catback exhaust system here. Let's talk about what makes them different from the stock stuff, and we'll start with our mufflers. In the performance world, if you just want to replace a muffler, they call this an axle back. So let's talk about what a muffler does. A muffler, it essentially is in its name. It muffles the exhaust, or it just kind of turns the volume down on how loud your exhaust is, okay? Most stock exhaust systems, usually I think they call it turbo back, where exhaust flow kind of comes here, and then here, and then here, and then out. It's usually just, it's not just this, and it doesn't just flow in and flow out. Usually it has to bounce off the walls. There's chambers, and there's things like that that dissipate the noise of how loud this is, okay? Versus when you have an axle back or a performance exhaust, first off, it is a straight through, you're gonna see three styles. You're gonna see something called a reactive muffler, meaning that it's chambered like this, but the chambers are less aggressive, and I mean the chambers aren't as complicated. It still kind of wants to flow straight, but it does little things to change the frequency of the noise. Flowmaster is known for being for having reactive style mufflers. They're chambered, they have things like that. That's why they have different series of muffler that change how deep or how loud your exhaust is. Reactive mufflers are great for producing a certain sound you want, but the kind of drawback is that they're not the best flowing. As far as high horsepower is concerned, they're not the best. Obviously, if you have a pickup truck or something that's not really fast, or something you don't really care about speed, a reactive style muffler is perfect because you can kind of tweak and get the exact tone you want, and performance isn't really your objective. And then here, this type of muffler, if you ever hear somebody say I have a straight through muffler, that is called an absorption style muffler, meaning that exhaust flows in here and it basically flows right out. There is something called it usually has like a perforated pipe, and there's usually like fiberglass packing in here. Mufflers do still, even straight through mufflers do have a way of changing the frequency, not letting it get too loud, not letting things be too raspy. I'll show you what this looks like. I'll try to see if I can put a light in here to help you guys. Okay, and I don't know if you guys can see that, but that light you see is the outside of the muffler. It's a little tough to see because it's just hard to get light in here, but literally the exhaust is straight through. And like I said, there's like fiberglass packing around the outside that that gives the car a certain frequency, a certain tone that the manufacturer wants it to have, okay? Straight through mufflers are a great idea if you want a certain, if you want it to be loud, straight through mufflers are to go. Straight through mufflers perform the best. Obviously, one of the biggest drawbacks are straight through mufflers are just loud. All right. And then lastly, I'm under my BMW right now. We have something called a hybrid style muffler. Hybrid style mufflers can have things like J pipes on them. They can have exhaust flaps. These different things can change the tone of the car. If a car has an exhaust flap, what can happen is this can close, and that can obviously reduce exhaust noise. If you have a really loud car, GT500, Hellcat, ZL1 Camaro, things like that, these cars are really loud at startup. Your neighbors probably hate you every time you start the car up. So if you're a little friendly and you care about your neighbors, exhaust flaps are great ideas because they'll muffle the sound, at least when you're at home, so you're not so loud, especially if you have a car. That's luxury. You don't want it to be loud all the time. You want it to be quiet sometimes. So yeah, hybrid style mufflers are great ideas. Another thing to talk about is the actual material of a performance exhaust versus a stock exhaust. Most stock exhausts are mild steel. Performance exhausts are usually aluminum or titanium if you really got the money for it. But aluminum is lighter, it's obviously shinier, looks prettier, and it is resistant to rust. And another cool thing that if you can see here, you see how this is like crimpling? Mild steel tends to crimple on bends and things like that, which hurt exhaust flow. Versus here, if you can see here, this is called mandrel bent piping. Super duper smooth. There's no change in the diameter of the piping. This promotes great exhaust flow, obviously high horsepower, and we're gonna get the sound that we want. And then another thing to talk about is weight itself. This is not my stock muffler for this car. This muffler's been replaced, but it'll still be a good idea to compare the weights of the two. Let's see how much this weighs. So this muffler weighs about 12 pounds. Let's see how much the aftermarket one, or the Megan Racing weighs. Okay, this muffler is actually pretty heavy. We're about 16 pounds. Like I said, this is an aftermarket muffler. This has been changed before, but typically speaking, your stock muffler is usually heavier than your aftermarket muffler. The main objective of the resonator is to create destructive interference to reduce that drone or completely get rid of that drone. Obviously, you can see here my stock resonator is huge. It looks like a coffin. Versus my aftermarket resonator, which is same style as my muffler. It's an absorption style straight through resonator with that fiberglass packing again. Resonators are very slept on, but resonators do a great job of reducing drone, and they do a good job of kind of refining the sound of your exhaust system. Again, if you ever straight pipe an exhaust or you straight pipe a resonator, your exhaust may sound kind of raspy. It may sound a little unrefined. I just want to say, like, it kind of sounds a little wild. It probably drones a lot. Drone is when you're on the highway or you're sitting at a consistent RPM and you kind of hear like a woo 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 woo. It is a viciously annoying sound. This is why I say again, if you straight pipe your car, first of all, you are a menace to society. Straight pipe cars are so loud, they're so annoying for the most part, and your neighbors are gonna hate you. You're probably gonna hate yourself because you're only gonna want to put your stuff back on, and you probably even got to turn your car off when you go to a McDonald's to order stuff because it's just so loud. And again, if you can see that mild steel, notice how it crimples. As you can see here, it's a little hard to see, but as it turns, it pinches a little bit. Versus with the aftermarket, it is nice mandrel bent, and it has minimal bends. And that's another thing. Most performance exhausts try to reduce the amount of bendages as possible to help everything flow as great as it can. And let's see how much this bad boy weighs. 36 pounds. And that's 13 pounds.
Holy cow!
And finally, the last part of the exhaust system that is very interesting and can have many designs. A lot of people call this mid-piping. Mid-piping can consist of around 4 different styles. So with the Megan Racing exhaust, we have about 2.5-inch piping versus 2.25-inch piping. I believe our resonator and muffler piping they might be 3-inch, and I think this is a 2.5-inch. So we have thicker piping for better exhaust flow, higher horsepower. Let's get this stuff in. I'm getting hot. Hopefully this information I gave you guys is useful, and it can help you with whatever design you want to go with your car, even if it's a G35 or not. Thanks for watching, you guys. Till next time, out. Bye.